Hume's answer to that friend's latest reply was, though you may not, I'll grant you can't infer the particulars that way, but because this is a unique creation or a unique building or whatever, this is something that we've never seen before and have no explanation for, we can infer at least a unique and special creator.
Yeah, now you see, that would be the kind of rational speculation which makes belief plausible. But it wouldn't be have the psychological impact which would naturally elicit belief, you see. So that you find that in combining the two, he moves from the rational to the psychological. And when everything's on the table, he always seems to come back to the psychological basis. Yeah. Okay, let's turn to his ethics, shall we? And here, the two main works to keep in mind are, of course, the treatise on human nature, which is his early work when he was in his 20s. Book 3, I think I said here part 3, I think he calls it Book 3. Book 3 of that is about morality. And then later in life, he came up with a shorter work, more on the style of the Inquiry Concerning Human Understanding. A shorter work, and an easier one that he thought was required because of all of the misunderstandings that had arisen about the previous work. An Inquiry Concerning the Principles of Morals. An Inquiry Concerning the Principles of Morals. Now, the two, it seems to me, say very much the same thing, different emphases perhaps, but very much the same. And let me start by pointing out that the same basic issue about the relationship between reason and feeling comes up in ethics, as in religion, and every other area of Hume's thinking. In fact, that is the way in which he introduces the subject in the Inquiry Concerning the Principles of Morals. Is morality founded on reason or on feeling? Is morality founded on reason or on feeling? That's the question. Now, in order to see what he's trying to get at, two kinds of observations are necessary. One, that when he says feeling, or passion, or sentiment, or says that we seem to have a kind of moral sense, it's the vocabulary he's using. What he's referring to is impressions related to reflection. Now, you remember his theory of impressions. That all ideas are really arising as copies or imaginative productions suggested by original impressions, sense impressions. Okay? So that these ideas, which are copies, or which are a result of memory, perhaps imagination, okay, these are known by reflection on our own mental states. So I may be reflecting indirectly on my impressions. And these ideas themselves leave impressions, which give rise to further ideas. You remember that story. Okay. So when he says that he's going to be discussing reason or feeling, passion, sentiment, moral sense, that this is dealing with impressions of reflection, what he's talking about is these impressions. You see? Impressions of the ideas that ran through our minds in relationship to things in our experience. Plainly then, he's going to give an empiricist account of the origin of moral beliefs, if he's going to follow that route. Moral sentiments are impressions of reflections, resulting from earlier sense impressions and ideas of what is happening or might happen. You see? Now, sentiments can be calm, or they can be violent. And he develops that distinction in Book 2 of the treatise, which is entirely on the passions. Passions can be calm, or they can be violent. So that we have calm feelings about beauty. But on the other hand, there are violent sentiments, violent passions, like love, hatred, pride, and jealousy. Violent. Not in the sense that they're hurting somebody necessarily, but in the sense that they're strong, forceful, rather than the calm, steady satisfaction of beauty. Now, violent impressions may be a direct response, to ideas and impressions which are occurring, like to the experiences of pleasure and pain that you're undergoing, and you have feelings about that. Or they may be indirect responses. Indirect responses to experience that are mixed with certain other feelings that we have. A feeling of pride that is mixed with the experience of what somebody has just said about you. And the feeling that comes out of that is therefore one of these indirect things, because it's mixed with something else. So what he's doing then in raising this question as to whether morality is based on reason or passion is drawing on his theory of the impressions. Okay? Because passions, emotions, sentiments, feelings, they are impressions. Okay? Impressions. If you like, second-order impressions. Now that's the first thing to give context to it. Context in his own thinking. The second thing is historical context. Historical context. Because the question, is morality founded on reason or sentiment, was the hot issue in discussion of ethics in his day. That was the hot issue. The Enlightenment tradition, of course, had tended to say that ethics is founded on reason. John Locke had said moral knowledge is demonstrative knowledge, just like mathematics. Yes, knowledge has to do with the agreement and disagreement of ideas. So if you have the idea of the right to property, which according to Locke is a natural right, it's not an artificial construct, it's a natural right, and if you have the idea of theft, then simply by comparing those two ideas, you find that there is disagreement between them, and you know that theft is therefore in violation of the right to property. And so moral knowledge is simply relations of ideas knowledge, demonstrative knowledge, according to John Locke. Now, Hume heartily disagrees, and he disagrees because he doesn't think that anybody in the state of nature, so-called, has a right to property. He seems to think, Locke does, that the right to property is prior to there being any civil society. Yes, because he has a natural law ethic. But Hume disagrees. He rejects natural law ethics. He says that that idea of the state of nature is a myth, a fiction. Not only does it historically not exist, but you can't even imagine it the way Locke talks about it. It's so involved with logical inconsistency, like on the notion of the right to property, when property is a product of organised society, rather than anything else. So on the one hand, then, there are those who say that morality is based on reason, like John Locke. Now, there are also some of the moral sense philosophers of the day that we'll be looking at next week, like Joseph Butler, who argued that our moral judgments, when in conscience we say that would be wrong, you see, that's an immediate awareness of wrongness. But Butler and others in that tradition would say that that is a rational judgment. Thomas Reid, I mentioned, Scottish realist. He maintains we have a direct awareness of wrongness, and it's a rational judgment that we make. And he argues that against David Hume. So there are those who contend, then, that moral knowledge is rational knowledge, moral judgments are rational judgments, the basis of morality is in reason, and more basically, of course, natural law of some sort. On the other hand, there are those among the moral sense philosophers, like the famous Earl of Shaftesbury, who had been Locke's patron, and Francis Hutcheson, also incidentally very influential in early American philosophy. Shaftesbury and Hutcheson, who maintained that conscience, our moral sense, is more akin to aesthetic feeling than it is to mathematics or demonstrative reasoning. That it's more a matter of moral taste, you see, than of making rational judgments. That you can no more argue about the rightness or wrongness of something than that you can argue as to whether a certain piece of music is beautiful with somebody who doesn't have a developed taste for it. Sentiment, feeling, taste. And there are places where Hume uses the word taste also. And it's not surprising, therefore, that people who respond to this emphasis on feeling try to argue that aesthetic judgment is also rational judgment, not only moral judgment, but aesthetic judgment. So that there is some objective truth about aesthetic values, something objective about moral values. Now, as far as Hume is concerned, these are all subjective. And as critics of Hume, like Thomas Reid, point out, what has happened historically is something like this. Once the theory of ideas was introduced, primary qualities became subjective. Now, take it back, secondary qualities became subjective. Okay. Then, with Berkeley, not only secondary, but primary qualities became subjective. With secondary qualities subjective, colour, sound, beauty became subjective. And with David Hume, belief became not a matter of rational judgment, but something subjective, a matter of feeling. And what was left? But for moral belief to be subjective also. So it's traced to the influence of the theory of ideas subjectivizing what previously had been regarded as objective all the way down the line. The Scottish realists hold that primary qualities and secondary qualities are both objective. That aesthetic and moral values are both objective. That belief is a rational intuition, not just a psychological response. So the issue is pretty well defined in that way. And Hume is trying to formulate his view. Now, Hume is a man of moderation. He refuses to buy the idea that reason is the basis of morals. He refuses to buy the idea that sentiment or feeling alone is the basis of morals. Sure. And just as it was with the abstruse and the practical, the logical and the psychological, he's like the little boy offered two kinds of pie. Which would you like? A little bit of each, if you please. He wants a combination of the two. Now, you see, he tried to pull that off in religion. Can he pull it off in ethics? That's what he tries to do. Okay? Well, if reason has a role in relationship to ethics for Hume, what is its role? Well, remember that reason for Hume can produce two kinds of judgments, and only two. Judgments about the relations of ideas, and judgments about matters of fact. So the question about the role of reason is, what knowledge do we have related to ethics, relations of ideas, matters of fact? Sounds simple. Well, relations of ideas, yes, definitions of moral terms. Definitions of moral terms. That is to say, if we say justice is such and such, definition is a relation of ideas. Subject and predicate are agreeing the definition. So we can define moral terms. We can talk, for instance, about the relationship of different moral concepts. The relationship, for instance, between benevolence and self-interest. Right, they don't exactly agree with each other, do they? Knowledge has to do with the agreement and disagreement. All right, so that's one thing that reason can do. Second thing has to do with matters of fact. Reason can describe the circumstances in which we have to act, can provide us with factual knowledge about situations that we face, with factual understanding of the possible consequences of actions. Okay? So reason contributes in those ways. And notice that last phrase, consequences of actions. Because one of the main links between reason and feeling is going to be utility. He's a pre-utilitarian utilitarian. At least if you mark the beginning of utilitarianism with Bentham and Mill. It's from David Hume, they really get the idea. What then is the role of, what then can reason not do? Reason cannot justify appealing to consequences and utility. No. Oh, it might as a matter of prudence, might tell you to be prudent. See, but why do you want to be prudent? It can't really justify appeals to utility. It cannot motivate you to want to do something. And it cannot approve or disapprove an action. It can just describe consequences. Now, if reason cannot approve or disapprove an action, you can't make moral judgments. Moral judgments approve or disapprove. So reason can make no moral judgments. And inasmuch as responses of feeling are not judgments, feelings are not true or false. Only propositions, judgments are true or false. Inasmuch as feelings are not true or false, feelings make no moral judgments. There are no moral judgments. You see? Now, there are moral sentiments, there are moral feelings that give rise to utilitarian statements. Well, what about sentiment? What's the role of sentiment? Well, I said that the common ground is utility, and you can see how reason hitches onto utility. How does sentiment hitch a ride on utility? Well, you see, utility, the consequences that are for the common good of everybody, utility is based on the feeling of benevolence. Benevolence is wishing, wanting, willing what is good for others. A sentiment of benevolence. Beneficence is doing what's good, benevolence is wanting what's good. But why are we that way inclined in our feelings towards others? Hobbes had said, we're not. We're all like ravenous beasts. And Hume argues against egoism. Hobbes had been accused of a radical egoism, and in Hume's day, the term Hobbism was an epithet of disdain for a view that really I don't think Hobbes held, that there is not a shred of friendliness or anything else in a human being, naturally. Well, Hume argues against that. He's arguing that there is a natural benevolence in all human beings, a natural altruism in all human beings. Oh, in varying degrees, he's not saying how much. It varies in degree greatly. But there is some natural benevolence. Now, there, sort of by nature, how does it develop? And he's dealing with sort of a developmental moral psychology. You see. Well, it develops out of a feeling of sympathy. Develops out of a feeling of sympathy. Sympathy which involves, as I feel sympathy, either pleasure for you or pain with you. Oh, I feel for you, we say. I feel for you. You see. So that there is self-interest involved there in the pain or pleasure that I feel. But why would I feel sympathy? I feel sympathy because reason tells me of factual similarities between you and me, your experience and mine. And remember one of the principles of association? Resemblance. Resemblance. So when there are resemblances between your experience and mine, the complex ideas that develop in my mind involve both of us. Yeah. And because they involve both of us, I feel not just for me, but for you. And there is a natural benevolence in all human beings. You see. Well, this then is the essence of his position. His is two ways in which this theory is labelled. This is an ethical subjectivism, and it's an ethical naturalism. Now, let me explain those terms. They're current to this day in ethical theory. Ethical subjectivism is the view that there are no objective moral qualities. There are no objective truths of an ethical sort about objective states of affairs. But rather, when I say something is wrong, or something's good, I'm talking about my own feelings, my own sentiments. So that in this case, you see, we're out of benevolence, I feel with you, and I say, that's too bad what you had to go through. What I'm really doing is saying,